In the hustle of life, with all its noise and busyness, it's important to take time to be still, to calm our senses, to renew our bodies, to open our minds. Let us gently breathe in a full, calming breath and slowly exhale all the concerns that draw our attention away from the renewal being offered by the quiet within. This is a holy place where love and grace abide for each of us and all of us, individually and collectively. Here in this space, between the rhythm of each heartbeat, our connection to God and to those we love will always live. There are two key words that sing throughout our spiritual journey. The first is balance, and the second is middle. Finding the balance in our lives requires that we stand in the middle, honoring the sacred within, while also being a warrior in the world. Our spiritual journey is the unification, the blend of inner and outer experiences. Our inner wisdom and life inform us how to be in the world. To be people of peace, we must know peace. To be people of soul and spirit, we must cultivate a rich inner life so that we can hear the cries of our neighbors next door and across the world. This is not knowledge gained through experience, books, or work. Rather, it is the acceptance that within us is the source of all truth. A surrender to a greater good that infuses us all, even if we do not on the external agree. So let us take a time to listen more closely to the song of our soul as it's singing a lullaby of hope, of quiet, of love, here in this quiet space. Holding the balance of the middle way is being attentive to our inner song first. Being a warrior in the world means we diligently guard our words and actions, and then live from the higher call that is within us. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Amen. About 2 weeks ago, I attended a Unity seminar. As many of you know, when you're in a profession, you have to take CEUs, credential extra credits. And so I was in this seminar, and they were talking about churches and growing churches and what makes for growing churches. And she kept talking about authentic. It was a word that kind of struck me. Authentic. Authentic preaching, authentic in its outreach, it's authentic in the board, it's authentic in the minister. And the word just kind of kept hitting at me. You know how that does? You think nobody has a yellow car, you buy one, and then you see 100 yellow cars around the city streets. Well, it was that kind of, ping, ping, ping. And I thought, okay, what does that word mean, really? So I thought to myself, just like we all do, let us go to the official policies, and that would be to Google. I guess Webster is kind of a passe kind of reference nowadays. Anyway, the short and the long was something that's not false, it's not copied, it's unquestionable evidence. I imagine all of us here have a two-step verification on your phone to make sure that you are who you say you are. So I thought, okay, not false, not copied. It kind of just rolled around there for a while. A couple of days after the seminar, I get a weekly email from one of my photography teachers, Meredith Fontana. And the title of her blog was Authentic Photographs. And I thought, there's that word again. When you get pinged a couple times, you got to pay attention here. And here's what Meredith said in her synopsis of what she said. She said, I've heard authenticity defined in many ways. It's most often defined as being true to yourself, honest, being real. But I've always found those definitions to be a bit nebulous and unhelpful. What do they really mean? She said, to me, authenticity is congruence. Now that's a whole new word there, congruence. Congruence between who you truly are and what you represent to the world. Congruence between your internal reality and your outward expression of that reality. So today, we're going to kind of look at 4 questions. This is going to be your homework assignment. I'll give you a little heads up on that. First thing is, how do you define authenticity? Number 2, a question I've never asked myself in this way, am I authentic? Really? Have you ever asked yourself, am I an authentic being? Number 3, are you authentic? How do I recognize authenticity in others? And 4th, how do I become more authentic? Something that I would like to be, that I'm more congruent between my inner life and my outer life. So first, how do we define authenticity? Sort of cutting away to the chase, if you will. It's being true to yourself and your beliefs. And it takes courage to be who you are. It's that alignment, like Meredith talked about, between your inner world and your outer world, where my words and my actions and my values are all moving sort of in a harmony, in a blend. It's important, I think, when you explore words like authenticity, for example, that you take what the dictionary says, but then you have to say, but what's the word for me? My husband, Patrick, and I, that night I came in and I said, this word is really bugging me. And he said, I don't get that word. I don't wrap myself around that word. He said, to me, it's more like being integrity, being genuine, being truthful. How about being in alignment, being in resonance, congruent, harmony? So it's an invitation, if you will, to take sort of a big word and kind of unpack it a little bit. And that's what I felt as I kept running up against this word in just about everything I read for the last couple of weeks. What is authenticity, or what does it mean to be authentic? Well, first of all, when we're talking about defining that word, we have to understand that we live in our labels. And if we don't think so, then wait till your labels are removed. Now, here's what I mean by that. We all have a label: male, female, wife, mother, son, daughter, kid, student, teacher, commander-in-chief, accountant, whatever it might be. And we find that it's a very scary place when we lose our label. We retire. Who am I without my business card? That was really shaking to me, and I know many of you have experienced it. How about an empty nester? Couldn't wait till the kids got out of the house, and then we go look around and go, Well, now what am I going to do? It gives us a direction. When we're mom, we know the plan. We got to get the kids to school. We get it. But what happens when all that's gone? Kids don't need us anymore. It gives us direction. It gives us purpose, and it gives us place in the world. If I say I am a mom, that's one place. If I say I'm head of the soccer moms, that's a whole nother place, isn't it? I mean, I don't know that we honestly give our labels the the importance that they really hold for us and psychically important to us. So when we're looking at being authentic and describing authenticity, we've got to kind of dig below those levels or those layers and say, what is this in me? What do I really believe? What values guide my life? What parts of myself do I hide from others? As much as we would all like to think we're totally healed, we're so healed, we're healed. We're not. And every now it comes up as a negative response to something, or every now it comes up and you think to yourself, those people that, and I think to myself, what brought that on, Marianne? Where did that come from? See, here's the thing about authenticity. We cannot do it. We cannot make it. We cannot find it. It will not be on sale on Amazon Prime Day. You can only be it. See, in Unity, we teach that all the gifts of God are totally present 100% from the moment of your conception. You got the whole package. But the challenge of the spiritual journey is the unpacking, the awareness, the awakening to, whatever word you want to use there, that it's not so much about becoming someone new as it is about uncovering who you already are. And in our unity principles, we talk about we live the truth that we know. And this is a great insight. You will not get any more truth until you live the truth that you know. You have to awaken to that realization. We keep praying, oh, God, give me this. God, give wisdom, knowledge, understanding. And God's like, you know what? I've already given it to you, but you've got to take hold of it. So what is your definition of authentic and authenticity? How do I know I'm authentic? I asked myself that the question the other day when all this was coming down. I thought, well, how do I know if I'm authentic? I think I am, or I say I am. But authentic people or authenticity, if it's really the merging, the congruence, the harmony of the inner and outer, then doesn't that really feel peaceful? Something inside of you, even though, life can be pretty chaotic on the outside, you just say, okay, take a minute, take a breath, and I know that place of peace. I know that centeredness within me. However small the moment or however large, that's not the point. The point is we know that place. And when we know that place, that's our authentic place. It is the place of our inner peace where everything is in alignment. We have a consistency of our words and our actions. We are predictable people. And I don't mean that as a negative, like, oh, they always do the same thing on Tuesday. It's like, if you would call me and say, Marianne, I need some help, you know that I would be there. Or I would honestly say to you, I can't help you, or I don't want to help. Something that communicates that I understand within myself where I am and my boundaries are. You see, it's a freedom from excessive concern about others' approval. It's a willingness to admit mistakes. Ooh, yeah, I don't even like that. And this one's even worse. Comfortable with being vulnerable. Quite frankly, I don't know anybody that's really comfortable with being vulnerable. We don't like to feel out of that comfort zone. And I see that in myself. I'm like, well, what's going to happen next? Or how is this going to go? Or should I have this? Or should I have that? It's like, "Ah, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be." We've got to let it be to come to that place of inner peace. See, am I the same person in private that I am in public? Do my actions reflect my deepest values? We have this fascination with these shows like Bridezilla and all of that kind of stuff. That this person, oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to get married to a wonderful man, and then they come out, wow. Well, that's not an authentic person, is it? There's a persona for the external, but internally something else is really happening. So when we live authentically or ask ourselves, am I being authentic? We experience it as a wholeness, as a peace. We're not fragmented, and we can feel that. I don't know about you, but I can feel I'm like out of sync. Maybe that's a better word for it. I don't know. But there's something that I'm off step, I'm off beat. And it's not because I'm not feeling well that day or something, but something is not right. I don't feel my inner peace. But when I'm being authentic, even if it's a difficult space um, to be someone who is willing to admit their mistakes, to be vulnerable. Those are uncomfortable places, but they still feel like this is what I need to do, this is what I need to say, this is how I need to be in this situation. Now, how do I recognize authenticity in others? I think this is really interesting because I think as human beings, we have an innate sense of people who are genuine. We are drawn to people who are genuine. The other day, I went out to dinner with some friends, and some people I knew, some people I didn't. And this guy sat down next to me, and I turned and introduced myself, and he just said, "Oh." And then he looked away and turned and talked to the guy. Now, obviously, he knew the guy across the table. He didn't know me. But you know how you get the vibe? I'm sure you've all had the vibe, and I thought, I'm going to move my chair just a little bit over and talk to the person over here and just kind of not give a lot of energy over there. There's something about he wasn't he wasn't congruent. He wasn't peaceful. He wasn't authentic to me. Authentic people, you think about the people you know, the people you love, the people you say, those are people who are authentic. They listen more than they talk. They admit when they don't know. They treat people consistently, whether you're somebody rich and famous or you're a homeless person on the street. There's a, a knowledge and an acknowledgement of humanity that we all share. They make you feel safe. So if you're saying, oh, I'm really troubled, and this person allows you that space to sort of feel safe enough to share what you wanted to share, what you felt was on your heart. So think of somebody you trust deeply. Do they make you feel safe? Do they listen to you? I mean, not just your words, but they listen. And also, authentic people are about making connection. And that can't be fake. They embrace it. It's like mother hen gathering everybody in, and even when they're talking to them or not talking to them, like this gentleman next to me did not even really acknowledge me, rather than taking a moment to say, "Oh, I've heard your name. I've never met you. I'm glad to get a chance to meet you." Yada yada, which would have made me feel safe, as opposed to thinking, "I think I'm going to move my chair." Authentic people really become healing people. How do we become more authentic? If, as we teach, You have all the gifts of God, and authenticity is one of them. So we're awakening to it. We're being quickened, if you will. And in a way, I think we copy first and then explore. You know, there's something about having a spiritual mentor. Now, that can be a person, that can be a book, that can be a webinar that you go to, that could be any number of things, a movie that you see that you go, that really touched me deeply. I want to live like they lived. And we begin a journey that first starts as a copy. When I first got into ministry, I didn't go to ministerial school. And so I was in the field, and my minister mentor was Reverend Shea St. John. Janet and I were in that group of being mentored by Reverend Shea. And I would be out in the field, and I'd think, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do with this Easter service, Christmas service? And I'd always say to myself, what would Shea do? Okay, what would Shea do? How would she do that? And I remember for like 2 years, everything was a carbon copy of what she did. And I was sitting, it was a Christmas Eve service. We had just gone through, an hour, candle lighting and lots of music and all of that. And I sat there and I thought to myself, I am not doing this again. This is not me. Because it's like taking the training wheels off the bike, right? We learn to be authentic by copying others in their authenticity. And then we say, okay, now wait a minute, I got to evaluate that. I'm going to take those wheels off and I'm going to learn to fly on my own. The goal is to have one life, one whole integrated and true life. There's not the material world out there and then the spiritual realm in here. So it always saddens me when I hear people say, well, I don't want to be on the board and mix politics in my spiritual journey. I don't know how to tell you this, but that is the great rubbing edge of your spiritual journey. We live in a material world through the lens and through the vision of the experience of our spiritual nature. We cultivate it through prayer and meditation and reflection. We allow our spiritual beliefs to shape our world and our lives and the way we are in our life. So authenticity is the meeting place of soul and action. As what we believe and how we live become one. Well, isn't that the middle way? It's like this fulcrum. It is this place, the crossing, the intersection of the material and the spiritual. Spiritual, that too. So in this middle way, in this intersection, we recognize that there's a lot of work to be done. Our external world shows us daily, constantly, over and over again, how we sometimes go on autopilot. We don't examine our motives, our fears, our desires, our belief. Authenticity requires courage to be self-referring, self-examined. What am I afraid to discover about me? Am I being honest about what my strengths and my weaknesses are? Those are challenge questions that, if we talk about our spiritual journey, about this integration, about this unfolding, I so love that word because I do think that we have everything within us, just like a flower, and it unfolds into its fullness and its richness. So your homework assignment for this week, as the good teacher within me will say, you have 4 questions to consider. How do you define authenticity for you? Not what Google says, not what Webster says, but what is it for you? What words do you use? Maybe authenticity does speak to you, and maybe it doesn't. How do you know that you are an authentic person? Are you living your life? Do you feel authentic within yourself, or do you feel that fragmentation? Number 3, how do you recognize authenticity in others? And lastly, how can you become more authentic, more unfolded, more integrated, standing at that crossroads between the external and the internal as it integrates into the one great life of God that you live out each and every day. Thank you, and God bless.